corrective action
I gave you more
plan.
than, I gave you over 3 minutes.
Okay, well, it's hard to do this very quickly because there's a lot of wording here. I'm just saying, it's talking about a hydrogeologic site assessment, and when you go to that code, that's not what that part of the code is. So,
Because
you
the
know,
hydrologic site assessment is an additional requirement. Any applicant who wants to put an underground storage tank in has to prepare the assessment that meets the things outlined in those two subsections that you talked about.
right, but
It's
those
separate
two subsections are something different.
No, they're not. They relate to what you need to include when doing the assessment. The assessment is the assessment's not required by the federal code. We are requiring an extra step. Do the assessment, make sure it meets the requirements of those two subsections.
Okay, well, it looks like it should show you how to do this assessment in accordance with that code.
Go to those
It doesn't
sections.
really, it talks about a corrective action plan, so
Okay.
I'm just pointing out confusion.
I'm just trying to
Adopt the
explain.
whole, adopt the whole 280,
We
and
did.
that's fine, and skip all these
We did.
pinpointed information.
We did, yeah.
We might.
Poorly written.
All right, just to be clear, Lynch, if I'm understanding this raising complaints, aren't they really more properly directed to U.S. Representative Susan Blain and U.S. Senator John Fetterman and U.S. Senator Bob Casey, because she's complaining about the way the federal regulations are written, which we had nothing to do with incorporating here.
Complaining about how our ordinances
I'm not
are.
talking about, you're not recognized, I'm having a conversation with the solicitor and
I'm
trying
not complaining about the federal code.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I think it just sounded like she was under the impression, if, like she said, she wrote the email, and that was the email that I saw, that she was under the impression that not all of section 40 CFR 280 was included in this ordinance, and it is, so,
You said it's.
yeah, she was just mistaken.
Okay. All right. Our next witness is Victoria Optoff-Cordero. Victoria Optoff-Cordero. And you'll need to be sworn in as well.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear by Almighty God or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please answer, I do.
I do.
And can you please spell your last name?
O-P-T-H-O-F as in Frank, hyphen C-O-R-D as in Delta, A-R-O. Sure. I think to sum up what I just heard in the back and forth is that our draft of the ordinance, the citations listed after the sentences do not correctly reference the federal sections of the code that the sentence is discussing. So I appreciate the eye rolling. I'm just saying, is this so important for you all to consider this evening? Maybe you want to correct the language or remove it so that we don't look silly when a developer comes and goes through it and looks at the citations and says, what are these people doing? Because they don't match. I mean, yes, they will go and find the correct section after because we're adopting the entire federal code. But, you know, if we want to look good and we want the developers to respect us intelligently, it would make sense that our draft ordinances match the federal codes as best as possible. The other comment I did want to make is I am still concerned about putting any kind of storage tank in a hydrogeologic area. I think it's a very sensitive area for a long time. We have never allowed that type of storage facility. I appreciate that there are federal regulations and clearly designs change. There's differences in how people make things. But I think in keeping with the historical preference of our township through many different councils, it would make sense not to adopt this ordinance. Thank you.
Wait, can I ask you a question? Did they match?
They match.
Okay.
Scott, let me ask Scott from Hanover. Scott, when you read the ordinance as say you were an applicant, I just asked you for say you were an applicant's engineer, is it confusing to you? Do you know what the regulation, what you need to follow?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
All right, I don't have anyone else who's asked to speak during this hearing, so unless there's other questions or comments from the council, having heard none, I will make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Mr. Banonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Sherber?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right.
And as I said before, it's on your agenda later on under business items to consider whether you want to adopt the ordinance or not. And thank you.
ladder truck. Lower Saucon Fire Rescue's loan payment for the purchased ladder truck is due on October 1, 2023. Council agreed to fund 75% of the purchase price over a 5-year period. After a down payment of $425,600, the next payment is due in the amount of $134,313.35 to apply toward the Lower Saucon Fire Rescue loan. Unless there's any questions or comments from council, I would like to, and I will make a motion to authorize the release of installment payment number 3 of 5 to Lower Saucon Fire Rescue for the ladder truck in the amount of $134,313.35 toward the Lower Saucon Fire Rescue loan.
I'll second it.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Banonis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys for hard work.
All right, next up, we have consideration of adoption of ordinance 2023-06 revising chapter 180 zoning. See description 3C, so we just had the public hearing. The proposed ordinance to amend and revise the code of Lower Saucon Township by revising chapter 180 zoning to allow underground storage tanks in carbon and geology areas only with appropriate safeguards and compliance with federal and Commonwealth of Pennsylvania regulations. I don't have any other comments or questions about it. I think it was discussed in the hearing. And with that, I will make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-06.
I'll second
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
it. No.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Banonis?
Yes.
Mr. Croce?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, up next is the presentation and review of the capital improvement plan for 2023 to 2028. The Assistant Township Manager, Director of Finance, has prepared a draft of the 5-year capital plan for council review and discussion. Kathy, would you share with us?
Sure, thank you. As you have stated, we submitted the capital plan.
Is your mic on, Ken?
I believe so.
Green?
Yeah, it's green.
I was talking to you.
Okay. We submitted the capital plan in accordance to our ordinance. We had an opportunity to review. We are taking an aggressive approach to handling some of our MS4 requirements next year. We are planning on a few capital improvement projects. We've noted the pickleball courts that are coming in this year, and next year the Eastern ball fields and the grant we were awarded for the town hall hot lot replacement. We have several road projects that will have been delayed to a certain extent. We're kind of shuffling around the projects based on how we're able to get all the documentation in order. So Black River should be finished sometime this year, hopefully.
Black River hopefully will be finished this year. We're still waiting for Verizon to come out. We contact them weekly along with the engineers. We've now been waiting a month for them to come out and move their line.
And the Easton, for the Reading culvert, which is on the agenda this evening, that will be completed before June of next year. So we are moving aggressively in trying to replace and fix those items. Also in here is also the replacement schedule of our vehicles that we had expanded, if you remember, from a 10 to a 15-year plan for the public works apparatus, and 2.5 years to maybe 5 for the police. So if you approve and we're okay, we are moving forward with, or we would like to get ahead of it and order, if possible, after the budget. The vehicles for the replacement of the paver and backhoe for 2025. Public works vehicles along with fire apparatus replacement, the delays are almost over 2 years.
So
Even if we ordered it now, we wouldn't get it until 2 years from now.
we expect the paver, we were told that paver has a 12 to 18 month delivery time. and the backhoe is like 8 to 10 months. So originally, the plan was to come in and just ask for the paver, but since that's going to be delayed to 2025 with the new supply and demand world that we are in, we're going to request to purchase both the backhoe and the paver as soon as possible, with the expectation that the backhoe will be delivered in 2024 and the paver will be delivered in 2025. We will not come back for another vehicle in 24 unless we are ordering for 2026. Or there's a, 2026.
It's 25, it's big.
Yes. So we kind of have to change the way we've done things. We still don't have the F-250 pickup that we ordered in January of 2022. So,
Needless to say, some of these things are carrying, which a capital plan is supposed to do, and it's supposed to move as things change or amounts change, so we are in good shape when it comes to that, and we'll be recommending funding, increasing a little bit funding in the budgetary process outside of any excesses of revenue over expenditures on an annual basis, which we had projected some time ago that we were going to have to increase that annual allotment towards the capital fund over time.
and then 2 police vehicles.
Yeah, and the 2 police vehicles. If there's any questions? Anything you want to add?
Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have approval of the 2024 minimum municipal obligation for uniform and non-uniform pension plans. Act 205 requires the township manager as a CAO for the 2 employee pension plans to annually determine the MMO of the township for the coming year. The 2024 MMOs for those plans have been prepared by the township actuary and reviewed by the pension advisory committee at their meeting on September 13, 2023, and are being presented for approval.
Yes, these MMOs are based on the most recent actuarial evaluation that's required to be filed in March of 2024. We always base our MMO closer to the date that we should be looking at them, as opposed to delaying delaying it and pushing it down the line. This is the first year where we're actually, our MMOs are lower. For the police plan, a little higher on the non-uniform plan, but council needs to approve these MMOs officially before we can put them in the budget.
We just have to, do we have to do a motion? We can stop doing motions?
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 minimum municipal obligation for the uniform pension plan, the amount of $282,056, and for the non-uniform pension plan, the amount of $200,642.
I'll second that, but in the past it varies. 1 year we do it and 1 year we don't. So this year I second it.
I think for the record, these are looked at by the auditors for the pension plan, so it's probably best to do a motion in the next.
So that will be a policy from now on.
Move forward.
Okay, well, we made the motion. Priscilla seconded.
Good.
Call roll.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerga?
Yes.
Mr. Banonis?
Yes.
Mr. Caroci?
Yes.
Ms. Newman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next up is Resolution 60-2023, authorizing the submission of a grant application for the Monroe Local Share Account funding for replacement of playground in Southeastern Park. The draft resolution has been prepared. Should council approve the application to apply for grant funding for the purchase of a replacement playground in Southeastern Park. Mark?
Yeah, so we put together a resolution, and we're going to put together a grant application for the Monroe Local Share Grant to replace Southeastern Park. We looked at the playgrounds, and Southeastern Park was the next that was in need of replacement, and we can ask this from the Monroe Local Share Grant opportunity. So we'll see if they will fund the playground for us, and then we'll get a new playground.
great. Unless there's any questions from council, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 60-2023, authorizing the submission of grant application for Monroe County local share account funding for the purchase of the playground in Southeastern Park.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Sandy.
It's nice to see the kids are using it, it really is.
There's some great parks.
Yeah. Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Banonis?
Yes.
Mr. Croce?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have resolution 61-2023, authorizing the submission of grant application from Northampton and Lehigh County local share account funding for a new paper for the Public Works Department. Attached draft resolution is prepared. Should council approve the application for grant funding for a new paper for the Public Works Department? Mark?
As we spoke in the capital plan, the township is in need of a new paper. Our paper is 22 years old. Gets a lot of use every year. So we're looking to make an application to the Northampton Lehigh County gaming grant, or a local share grant, to help with the replacement of the road paper. We're going to ask for $400,000. The cost of the paper is $550,000.
If you have any questions, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 61-2023, authorizing the submission of grant application for the Northampton and Lehigh County local share account funding for the purchase of a Public Works paper.
Second.
Mr. Banonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next up we have appointment of environmental advisory council voting member. There are 7 volunteer applications that were submitted to the township by residents interested in joining the EAC. Mark, do you want to speak to any of these? Tom, you're the chair of the EAC.
Yes.
Sandy, you're on EAC.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
We went through the 7 applications, and the members voted. My recommendation as chair is for Cheyenne Rain to be the voting member for the EAC. I'll make that motion.
I have some discussion.
Could Mr. Carochi please repeat his remarks? I couldn't hear them.
So I made a motion for Cheyenne Rain to be the voting member for the Environmental Advisory Council.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
I have a comment. Since the EAC was found and formed, Sandy, you go way back to those days. There was a procedure policy that was followed, and whenever there'd be a voting member vacancy, they would look to the non-voting member appointments and recommend someone from that if they were acceptable to it. And then they would come to council, and council, out of respect for the EAC, would support that nominee. That's not happening here tonight. The nominee was Jennifer Hilton. And I'm opposed to that. I think that she should be the person appointed. And I think the bylaws even say that. And
But the bylaws say that you make a recommendation to council. But the council, it's just a recommendation. It's just a recommendation.
Blake, is there any requirement to appoint a non-voting member into a voting member position?
The ordinance that created the EAC says all appointments are made by council.
right, but prior to that, the recommendation is from the EAC to consider that recommendation.
And sometimes we listen to the planning commission's recommendation, sometimes we don't. I mean, a recommendation is a recommendation.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Call the vote.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Nope.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Banonis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Democracy.
All right. Next up, we have the EAC Network Fall Gathering Conference. Members of the Environmental Advisory Council of the EAC expressed interest in attending the EAC Network Fall Gathering Conference hosted by We Conserve PA on Saturday, October 21, 2023 at West Chester University. Early registration fee is $60. Registration will increase by $15 to $75 after September 29, 2023.
some members of the EAC expressed an interest in going, like you said, so we wanted to bring it to council to approve the EAC members getting the reimbursement for the $60 if they go to the event.
I'll make a motion to reimburse or pay for their registration fees, whoever's interested in the EAC.
Does that have a dollar limit? Are you limiting to the $60 early registration fee or the $75 late registration fee?
I would think it would be the $60, the early registration fee. I mean, we do have time, so, save money.
So that's a motion, right, Priscilla?
I'm
Yeah,
sorry?
It's a motion.
It's a motion, right? Yeah, okay.
I'll say that.
Okay.
Sandy said.
With the $60 limit, for the, as long as they apply it for the early registration.
Yes, my motion is to amend it to include that.
Sandy.
Okay. Sandy, you second?
Yeah.
Yes, Sandy.
Okay, that's fine, whatever, whoever needs to.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes?
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Banonis?
Yes.
Mr. Cruz?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next up, we have discussion of the resident mailing about the history of library service and what the committee hopes to achieve. We talked earlier, I'll make a motion to remove that item from the agenda for tonight.
Also.
Has the committee met yet?
No.
No, that's fine, that's one of the reasons.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Banonis?
Yes.
Mr. Cruz?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
So this is to remove the item from the agenda?
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next up, we have a award bid for the Reading Drive culvert replacement. The township received a bid for the precast concrete culvert structure installation set structure for the Reading Drive culvert replacement project in the amount of $282,000. Yeah, I'm sorry, $282,200 from CMR Construction, Inc. Mark, you have anything to add?
No, this was the second time this went out to bid. The first time that it went out, we were trying to get the culvert for this summer, this past summer. No bids were received on that. We put the bid back out with the delivery date of March or April of 2024. We only did receive one bid. The Hanover reviewed it, and it is a valid bid, and it is a good. But again, this is going to the supply and demand issue. We put this bid out in July of 2023 to receive it in March or April of 2024, and we only received one bid.
Well, I'll make a motion to award the bid for the Reading Drive culvert in the amount of $282,200 to CMR Construction, Inc.
I'll second it. You don't have a choice. Obviously.
Sandy, how do you, Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right.
No problem.
Mr. Banonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Cruz?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have discussion of potential action regarding joint defense agreement, declaratory judgment action. The proposed joint defense agreement will protect all communications, information, documents, and other information related to the defense of the declaratory judgment action. Lincoln?
Thank you. This is very similar to the joint defense agreement that council approved back when we had the appeals relative to the prior zoning ordinance amendment that eventually got overturned by the Court of Common Pleas. So as Mr. Banonis said, what this does is we now have 3 quasi-litigation items that have been filed regarding ordinance 2023-05. There's a declaratory judgment action in the Court of Common Pleas. There's a procedural validity challenge in the Court of Common Pleas. And there's a substantive validity challenge in front of the zoning hearing board. So because the landfill is named as a I'll call it a co-defendant in the declaratory judgment action, and because the landfill will be intervening in the other 2 appeals, what this agreement does is it protects the disclosure of strategy issues, any common strategy that the township might have with the landfill being a co-defendant from disclosure. So that's what it does. It's not jumping in with the developer, it's protecting communications that would otherwise could be disclosed in the disclosed strategy.
Makes sense. All right, any questions from council regarding the proposed joint defense and joint privilege agreement? All right, any heard none, I'll make a motion to approve entering into the joint defense and joint privilege agreement that's provided supplement to our package.
Second.
Mr. Banonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Caroci?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
No.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have approval of the event application for Woods Franklin Schoolhouse for Apple Fest. Council reviewed the event application for Apple Fest to take place on Saturday, October 14, 2023 at Woods Franklin Schoolhouse. Sounds delicious, Mark.
This is an event they do every year, it's just a formality to come before council. But yes, anyone that would like to on Saturday the 14th, after you visit the electronic recycling event that the township is hosting here, which I'll tell you again later, you can go over to the Apple Fest and have a apple cider.
With that, I will make a motion to approve the application for Apple Fest to take place on Saturday, October 14, 2023 at Woods Franklin Schoolhouse.
I'll second that.
Yep, well, whoever.
Mr. Caroci, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Banonis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, up next, miscellaneous business items. Approval of the July 26, 2023 council minutes. We have the minutes in front of us. I'll make a motion, unless there's any edits from anyone, I will make a motion to approve the July 26, 2023 council minutes without any corrections.
I'll second it.
Sandy?
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Banonis?
Yes.
Mr. Caroci?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And we also have the approval of the August 16, 2023 council minutes. Unless there are any comments or changes, I will make a motion to approve the August 16, 2023 council minutes without corrections.
Second.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Banonis?
Yes.
Mr. Caroci?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, moves us to council and staff reports. Mark, do you have a township manager report? Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Oh, I did. I'm sorry. Thank you. We also have the August financial reports. Apologize for that. Unless anyone has any questions, Kathy, do you want to add anything to the reports? Okay. Then I will make a motion to approve the August financial reports.
Second.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Banonis?
Yes.
Mr. Caroci?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, now that I've caught up with myself, we are at township manager reports. Mark.
The Eastern Road ball field, we are meeting with the contractor tomorrow for a pre-construction meeting along with the County Conservation District. Construction is expected to begin next week, Monday, September 25th. The pickleball courts at Polk Valley was started. The guys got in there, they leveled the area out and brought stone in. We're letting it settle now and we'll be back as soon as we can as other jobs get done to pave the pickleball court. The Steel City paving project has begun. They're out there milling, replacing stormwater, did some base repair, scratch coats, and have started with the top coat paving Steel City. Heller Homestead, they've been out, they've begun working on the widow's house windows. I was talking about the Conservancy Group removed all the antiques from the building, so the contractor has plenty of room to move, and the contractor was worried about dust from cleaning up the windows and stuff, so I was talking about Conservancy moved things out of that, the widow's house. As I just said, Lower Saucon Township is hosting an electronic recycling event on Saturday, October 14th at 9 a.m. here at the Public Works Building. We're going to do it the same as we did last year. Vehicles will come in the lower driveway, come up behind the Public Works garage, and they'll come through the drive-through bays where we will unload the cars for them and put the electronics into the trucks to go for recycling. We have an opening on the Saucon Valley Rail Trail Committee. We have gotten a couple of applications, but we're still taking that. Expect to have that at the October meeting. And just a reminder to everyone, the Freemansburg Motorcycle Hill Climb will be held this Sunday over at the Motorcycle Club.
Will the paving be done for the day?
They won't be in. Yeah. I don't know, I asked if they hold it in the rain. No rain day? I don't know. So if it's poured, they might not have it. So if you're into your motorcycle hill climb, if it's raining, they might not be there. That's all that.
Or,
What hours for recycling? From 9 to noon?
I think it was 9 to 11. I know that the truck filled last year. We do have a different contractor this year. So I think I think it's 9 to 11.
Mark, I think there's some confusion in the public out there. They think the ball field is going to cost $4 million. Council, can you clarify that? Council authorized $1.8 million. $500,000 came from a gaming grant and another
More than 500,000.
So can you clarify the funding of the ball field? Because people are so misleading people telling $4 million.
The base bid for the baseball field was 1.8 some odd dollars. The council also approved the sod alternate for 60 some odd dollars. So the total was 1.95 about. Funding was, no, 1.9, give or take.
How's that base?
The 511, I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah,
I have 511 from the grant, 500 from ARPA, 500 with reserves, was that part of the rec?
Microphone.
I'm sorry.
The funding that we were going to use for this was a little over 500,000 in grant money that we received from the two turtle shares. 500,000 from the ARPA, which we have $914,000 off of that. There's 800,000 in our park capital fund, which we were going to use 500,000 from there, and we were going to use 500,000 from reserves.
And just to be clear, Mark, the grant money that we have is specifically allocated and earmarked for that project and not for any other project within the township, correct?
Correct, it was specifically for the Eastern.
So every person who's out there saying that we authorized $4 million to pay for a ball field is either incorrect or a liar, correct?
Correct, it would be incorrect.
Incorrect or incorrect?
Incorrect.
Okay.
It was 1.9.
Right, so it wasn't $1.9 million of taxpayer money, it was $500,000 of state grant money allocated for it. It was $500,000 of federal money, and it was $500,000 from the reserve fund that was allocated to this. Okay.
the electronics recycling event is from 9 a.m. till
Let's
12.
see if the media corrects their reporting on that subject. I bet you they don't.
Yeah, or what Priscilla was influence. All right, I'm sorry, Mark, were you done?
No, yeah, okay.
All right, start that.
All right, council reports. Mark?
Mark, how'd we do with the fixing of the pavement?
That is in the process. We expect to get the paper back on Friday.
So everything went well?
We expect to get the paper back.
But for the audience, that's part of why we need a new paper. And we did an analysis of how this all worked, and we saved an awful lot of money by our township doing the paving versus subbing it out. Some jobs are too big, such as the terrace last year in Steel City, but a lot of the smaller jobs our guys do, and we save a lot of money doing it. So I think the paver is a nice purchase. And the other one's limping along until we can get the new one. Not pretty good.
I have nothing today.
I have a handful of things. I'll give an update from the pension committee meeting occurred on September 13th. Unlike our neighbors, our funding is very, very good. 2023 Act 205 valuation final reports will be submitted. They've already been submitted to the state. The deadline to submit those is March 2024. We filed early, so we used the new valuation to determine this year's MMO. 2024 MMO agenda for the police plan for 2023 is $426,000. Non-uniforms, $170,000. For next year, 2024, it drops down to $282,000 for the police plan, but it goes up a little bit for the non-uniform to $200,000. Township was spending $30,000 more in the non-uniform plan, $144,000 less in the uniform plan, for a total of $483,000. Municipal contribution was $234,000, which is a 33% reduction from last year, and 33% reduction. Great job. PSAB, there's no legislative issues that were being reported. Morgan Stanley said not a lot changed since the last meeting. They're experiencing a rebound in equity and fixed income. Growth companies are outperforming value. The S&P is up 17%. Growth companies are up 29%. Value companies is 5%. Consumer discretion stocks up 30%. Energy is down 5.7%. I'm sure that's going to change with gas prices going up. Top 5 companies in the U.S. stock market are up 47%. The remaining companies are up 10%. Large companies are rallying in the third quarter. Let's hope that continues. Inflation decreased. The Federal Reserve wants 2%. Unemployment rose 0.3% to 3.8%. Feds have increased rates 10 times to address inflation. Rates are raised again. Will probably be a 25 basis point in November. All indicators are showing that we're not immediately going into recession, which is good news. PSAB, MRT, it's a good year. Not much change from the last year. MRT performance as of June 30 was 8.86%, 10.39% through last week, and that's where we stand. So overall, pension is doing very well. A couple of things I want to talk about just generally with regard to the library. I just read 2 editorials on SauconVoice.com. Talks about how did the situation at the Hellertown Area Library get to this point, and how has Lower Saucon Township responded. Talks about how Lower Saucon Township had helped Hal over nearly a decade with major library projects. Talks about how Hal wanted Lower Saucon Township to pay its coffee to Hal's coffers over a 5-year period while being permitted to raise the dollar amount of yearly contributions unilaterally without accountability. In addition, we would have no legal defense against gouging Lower Saucon Township. We have no input whatsoever in Hal's affairs. Goes on to talk about Lower Saucon Township's commitment to the availability of the best educational resources for its residents, and also discussions about, we talked about at the last meeting, which was the digital library. And it also goes on to talk about, Tom, you bring this up at every meeting, how Lower Saucon Township has been able to furnish library services for any resident who wants access and has savings. To that point, the township spent around $57,000 last year and around $10,000 this year to ensure that its residents have services they need, compared to the projected minimum of $105,000 per year. As a result, Lower Saucon Township Council has created a significant savings in taxpayer money. And he goes on to talk about how very clear matters that the council is doing exactly what Lower Saucon residents elected them to do, to protect and advance the best interest of everyone who lives in the township. There's another article in there, talks about the library, and it mentions the lopsided demands of the library partnership and Lower Saucon Township's commitment to building new library resources to serve its residents at a reasonable cost. So just sharing that with the public. At the last meeting we did the rezoning. Remember Ginger Petrie stood up and made some comments about the effect of the property values, and the beauty of this is that there's lots of public records. So in 1987, she purchased her property, approximately 144 acres for $60,000. 2014, she purchased an additional 72 acres for $525,000. So her total cost on that is $585,000. What was not mentioned, I don't think, was that Lower Saucon had paid her a conservation easement in the amount of $495,000. There's also a subdivision that occurred where there was parcels N8-14-9E, was sold for $125,000, N8-14-9D sold for $120,000, and N8-14-9C was sold for $125,000. So out of that initial cost or basis of $585,000, there's been a total revenue of $865,000 to those properties. and she still owns the property. So I wanted to address that point so the public is aware of perhaps some details that were omitted from the last meeting.
And she's currently suing, right, to prevent the township from receiving about $70 to $80 million in host municipal fees over an 18-year period.
Yeah.
The rest of the township can't profit, I guess. Can't.
Would you like me to stand up while you go into all this?
It
It would be very great.
And in addition to that, the township has received yet another right-to-know request from the attorney representing those 8 plaintiffs in that matter. And, you know, obviously, every time a right-to-know request comes into the township, there's cost and time. The township staff has to deal with it, the township solicitor has to incur expenses in his time, which is a detriment to the township taxpayers. So I just want the public to be aware of things that they may not know of because of circumstances that are beyond their control.
Well, she's taking township money for conservation easement and suing the township.
Great. So, that's all I have for my report.
That's nice.
Priscilla, your report?
Yes, on Tuesday, the September 19th.
Please speak up, Priscilla.
Oh, sorry, the mic's not on. On Tuesday, November, I wish, September 19th, I attended a Howardtown Lower Saucon Chambers Board meeting, and I also received an email from the township DEP inspection report. I'm not very happy reading this. There were 2, actually we got 2 on the same day. One was dated August 16th, that was the day after that horrible rainstorm we had on that Sunday. And then on August 21st, and there's a lot of, the inspector goes out and he writes up his comments. And it ends with new and outstanding violations. And it goes on to say the code, I'll just say the comment. BLC failed to implement their nuisance minimization and control plan in violation of 25 PA code 273.136B123 and their northern realignment permit modification. Goes on to say, the DLC conducted 24 odor patrols. Comment, the BLC conducted 24 odor patrols between July 13th and August 21st, 2023. BLC was reminded in the July inspection report that the updated nuisance minimization and control plan for the northern realignment requires additional monitoring and record-keeping requirements. BLC failed to perform daily odor patrols, daily runoff inspections, daily dust inspections, daily mud inspections, daily noise observations, daily perimeter checks for the gas collection system, daily litter fence inspections, weekly cover inspections, weekly leachate seats inspections, weekly cover inspections for vectors, weekly litter patrol inspections, and random and routine inspections for traffic, including traffic flow and routine compliance in violation of 25 PA Code 273.218B123C. No odor patrols were conducted on July 12th, July 13th, July 15th, July 17th, July 20th, July 22, July 25th, July 29th, August 3rd to the 5th, August 12th, August 19th. No records for the other remaining criteria were available for review. Then it goes on to say that BLC failed to perform daily odor patrols, daily runoff inspections, daily dust inspections, daily mud inspections, daily noise observations, daily perimeter checks for the gas collection system, daily litter fence inspections, weekly cover inspections, weekly leachate seats inspections, weekly cover inspections for vectors, weekly litter patrol inspections, and random and routine inspections for traffic, including traffic flow and route compliance in violation of 25 PA Code 273.218B123C and their northern realignment permit modification. And it goes on to say, DLC failed to implement their nuisance minimization and control plan in violation of 25 PA Code 273.136B123 and their northern realignment permit modification. This is awful.
I'm sure they're on
Excuse me? They've been in violation since July, and they're on it. I'm very upset over this, that we have to read this. What is the township doing about this? Nothing.
We can answer that question.
I'm sorry, Lynn, what?
That's a DEP notice, right?
Okay, so yeah, so it's in our township. When is our next post meeting?
I'm asking
Our
a
next-
question. You're reading from a DEP
I
notice.
am.
So DEP has been monitoring what happens at the landfill extremely closely
Yes.
and is now telling them they need to fix stuff.
now.
Good.
Since July?
They should fix it.
Well, I'm just appalled by the length of time this is taking. So I'm appalled about everything. Okay, so it's my turn to speak, so you can have your turn then. Okay, well, that I want on the record. And I believe, Stacy, I gave you a card. Okay, we talked about, I don't know how to reserve the ball. What's first on the front page? I'm sorry?
There we go, okay. I couldn't get it.
Okay.
Okay, so which one would you like first?
Which one's first?
It's on your screen.
Okay.
What about?
Let me do the sunshine law first. Okay, I was questioning about the library committee, and in fact, I even called the sunshine law people at the office in Harrisburg. And it says that any state or local government body, covering up my mic, and all subunits appointed by that body that perform an essential government function and exercises authority to take official action or render advice, it can include boards, councils, authorities, commissions, and committees. So, in my opinion, that whenever this library committee meets, it needs to advertise the meeting and the public's invited. So it needs to be advertised. So I know you've all said that you didn't meet yet, but I'm saying that if you intend to meet, it needs to be advertised as a committee meeting.
I agree with you.
Oh, great. Ah, that was good.
You're all the sunshine.
I know, that's rating.
You're all the
I
sunshine.
know. Okay, Stacy, what was the next one? then?
Sunscreen?
Okay, so let me do the conservation.
This one?
Yes. Okay, okay, Jason, at the August 30th meeting, you highlighted an increase from only 2 properties temporarily conserved, and now 12 properties are permanently conserved after the council vote, a 60% increase in the number of properties. That factoid is meaningless for several reasons. More properties absolutely does not equate to better quality properties. The original 197.27 acres on 2 properties conserved were densely wooded and had many environmentally sensitive features that the EAC would look for when preserving properties. Most of the 193.13 acres of the new Bethlehem Landfill Conservation Easement properties consist of developed and environmentally degraded land. The scenic viewscape, for which many are of the landfill and the power plant. A strip of land where the existing pipeline runs is included in the total acreage of conserved land. An area of that land is part of the active landfill parcel is included in the total acreage of conserved land. Next slide, please. The landfill to burn, cut, remove, or destruct trees, shrubs, or other wooded vegetation in these cases, to remove dead, infested, or diseased trees. No notice needed to do this. There seems to be no way that anyone could confirm that what they removed fits the criteria. This is in the new conservation easement. To control erosion, it certainly isn't normal to remove vegetation to control erosion This generally causes erosion. Number 3, to install and maintain groundwater monitoring wells or gas monitoring probes, stormwater management or stream restoration activities. They can construct these things required to run a landfill on the conserved land, so it's not really conserved. Number 4, as necessary for utilities such as electric, gas, and telephone that are needed to serve the permitted uses in the easement area or other properties located within the permit area for the Bethel landfill solid waste permit 10020. Again, they can construct these things required to run a landfill on a conserved land, so it's not really conserved. Number 5, to log the property as long as they have an approved forest management plan. Next slide, please. This was presented as being permanent easements on the properties, although there was no third-party agency identified and listed in the easement documents. In regard to the third-party right of enforcement, the grantor hereby names, and you insert the name of the government body, charitable corporation, charitable association, or charitable trust, which, although eligible to be a holder, is not a holder as a third party with the right to enforce this conservation easement, which right shall not arise unless and until the recording of an acceptance of this right, and then insert the name with the Northampton County Recorder of Deeds as required by 32 PS Section 5054C of the Conservation and Preservation Easement Act. Next slide. So let's look at these 10 properties that are new properties that are conserved. We have one on Hayter Lane, which is 12.9 acres. The property has a home, outbuildings, driveways, etc. We do not include envelopes in our preserved properties, but they are all counting all of the acreage as conserved land. Okay, the next one is on Skyline Drive. It's 1.94 acres. The property has a large home and driveway. We do not include building envelopes in our preserved properties, but they are counting the full lot as conserved land. Next slide, please. Hayter Lane, 5.3 acres. The property has a large home, garage, driveway. We do not include building envelopes in our preserved properties, but they are all counting the full lot as conserved land. Next one, please. Sorry. Is that the next one? Okay. Then we have another one on Skyline Drive, 1.33 acres. The property has a home and driveway. We do not include building envelopes in our preserved properties, but they are counting the full lot as conserved land.
Are these recent pictures?
These are off the internet, off the Northampton County.
Do you know if those structures are still there?
I have no idea. I'm just going off what's on the county's website. But it's vacant land, and it's No, I'm just saying, if they're not, the houses aren't there, I don't know.
pictures of the houses?
That would even have a pool.
Can I finish my presentation?
Absolutely, it's really.
These were taken off the county's nc.pub, and I'm assuming that that's the current.
Have you looked at that property?
No, I did not go out and visit all the
I'm
properties.
just trying to ascertain whether that house is actually on that property today or not.
Yes, it is.
With the
Who said that?
Right here. I know it is for a fact.
You went out there and looked at it?
Last week.
Okay. Just asking the question.
Thank you for that. Okay, so what's the next one, Stacy? Okay, Hayter Lane, 2 acres. The property has a large home, garage, driveway. We do not include building envelopes in our preserved properties, but they are counting the full lot as conserved land. Next slide, please. Skyline Drive, 11 acres. The property has a home, driveway. We do not include them. I'll just keep going. Next slide. What are we losing? We have the Bull Run Natural Resource Area. We see the radius that it covers. Next slide, and I do have pictures here. This is the natural heritage area along the south bank of the Lehigh River. It is roughly bounded by the Lehigh River on the north, Reddington Road on the east, Apple Butter Road on the south, and Bethlehem Landfill on the west. It has all kinds of gently sloping forested hillsides. This is coming from the, can you go back a slide, please? and go down, oh, it's in the Natural Heritage Inventory of Lehigh and Northampton counties. And then the next page, please. And then it goes on to talk about the elements of concern for considerations with all the different special species and habitat disturbances. And then the next slide. It just talks about a lot of maintaining the current hydrologic regime is critical, and the cave entrances, it's all important environmental consideration that nobody addressed and nobody thought was important. So I prepared this to just get on the record of my opinion. Okay?
Be prepared.
Yes.
Be prepared.
Okay, so now we have the financial. Okay. Thank you. The information was presented at the August 30th meeting by Jason. Jason Banonis was presented a slideshow. I couldn't hardly see it because of the angle where I was sitting. But anyway, he claimed. I could have, but I didn't. Okay, I knew I would be able to see it later. Jason claimed that if the landfill can't expand, that the effect to each Lower Saucon household is an increase of $3,500. Well,
For a $500,000 house, right?
can I finish my,
I just want clarification.
when I'm finished, you can ask. If all 4,035 households in Lower Saucon paid $3,500 more, that would be $14,122,500. That's almost $11.6 million more than we got from the landfill in 2022, based on the $2,558,245 landfill revenue, and that comes from page 54 of the 2022 LST audit report. Then Banonis said we need a paid fire department all of a sudden at a cost of $2.5 million a year. He said that would double the tax increase to $7,000 per year. That would add $28,245,000 in revenue. This is a scare tactic used by very terrible math. There is no reason anyone's tax bill would increase as he stated. Next slide, please. Several things wrong with that. He based this on Lower Saucon home sales amounts for July 2023. This is not a true reflection of all homes in the township. 2, taxes are based on county assessed value, which is 50% of the value the county has determined for your property. They are not based on sales price. Number 3. So the 7 mil tax bill of $3,500 is for a home that the county valued at $1 million, which would have an assessment value of $500,000. Again, a scare tactic using very terrible math. There's no reason anyone's tax bill would increase as he stated. Next slide, please. Talked about 1 mil for the school district taxes paid by the landfill to the district, which is approximately $400,000. Banonis said there would be a financial shortfall of 1 mil to the school district without the money paid to them by the Bethlehem landfill. Bethlehem landfill will still own the land even if they are no longer operating. Property taxes must still be paid on the property they own. There are numerous properties that are not currently being used for landfill, and taxes are paid on these properties. There would be no shortfall to the Saucon Valley School District. Next slide, please. What is the median assessed value houses in Lower Saucon? It is not $500,000. It is $111,050. This is based on the 2022 Lower Saucon property taxes collected, $2,303,164 from the 2022 Lower Saucon audit report, page 11. That averages out to $570.80 local tax paid for each home. The math, $2,303,164. 4,035 equals $570.80. Using our 5.14 mill rate, the average assessed value is $111,050. The math, 570.80 at the mill rate equals 111,050. This shows the inaccuracy of the 500,000 median house value presented by Jason Banonis at the council meeting on August 30th, 2023. Next slide, please. So, the revenue generated by our current taxes in Lower Saucon, not including landfill money, show that we can pay our bills without landfill money. You can see on the chart, and for the past, for 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and it lists the total revenue for each of those years, the landfill revenue, the total revenue without landfill revenue, the total expenses, and the percentage. So, and these are all documented. I have printed out the pages from our audit report for all those years. It tells you the pages. And for 2018, the budget is funded by Lower Saucon residents at 91.7%. In 2019, 84.5%. 2020, 100%. 2021, 108%, 2022, 96.9%. Next, footnotes, a higher expense, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much. A, higher expenses due to paying off our debt. B, higher expenses due to unbudgeted $1 million paving project, extra legal fees. Okay, next slide, please. So 30% of Lower Saucon budget funded by the landfill. This information from August is misleading because residents may think that we have a 30% shortfall and would not be able to cover our budget. There is not a 30% shortfall. Using the financial information from the past 5 years, completed audit reports we see, and you can see, like I said, the numbers from the other slide. This averages 95.72% of Lower Saucon budget funded by Lower Saucon residents and non-landfill business revenue. This includes 2 years of paying off debt and last year's excessive unplanned spending. Next slide, please. Is that the end? Okay. Excuse me? Okay, can I have a slide thing back?
No, I want to reference those slides on the screen when I talk.
You want to
No.
look?
I want to reference your slides when I talk.
Go right ahead. Well, I'm not done with my report yet. Okay, so we have, let's see, I'm sorry, thank you. Okay, the other thing I want to mention is that, let's find my notes here. Tom, on 8/28, which was a Monday night, and on 8/30, which was our last council meeting, you kept asking me if I got a tree delivered. And you kept mentioning Rocky Vecito and about trees, and I told you I had no idea what you were talking about.
What's
Well,
your tree?
on 9 September, I'm glad the record will reflect that. On September 1st, I found a small Christmas tree on my patio, and if anyone wants to see a picture, there it is. And since you mentioned Rocky Vecito, and there was an application for a cell tower, and we discussed trees, I decided to call Kate Durso. We had a conversation. I asked that the tree be removed. And then I saw a text from Rocky, and it said, Tom gave me a tree after the last council meeting.
To deliver you.
I have been so busy between Rocky going to college and coaching and working that I didn't get a chance to drop it off. I just left it off at your back porch. Sorry I missed you. Well, I would like to go on record that I do not accept any gifts. It's in violation of the ethics code. And,
Gift from me.
oh my God, you're not getting it. So I'm glad you admitted that you gave me a gift, which is really in violation of the codes. So,
You invited him over for drinks.
It's not a violation.
It's a gift, isn't it?
It's a gift.
okay, so be sure to include that on your ethics form when you fill it out for this year. Okay, so let me see. Tree, library committee. Okay, my report's finished, thank you. Thank you for your time.
So I did.
Are you done? Okay.
Yeah.
I am, myself.
All right, so
Tom,
you want to go?
just one
Sure.
point I want to speak
Sure.
to. At the last council meeting, I had asked each of the council members, in light of, the litigation that's pending and the risk of the host fee coming into the township going away, to look at the budget and find where we can cut $2.6 million from the budget. I didn't hear anything from any council members tonight. I didn't hear anything from the public. We're not up to non-agenda yet. I looked at it and I don't have anything that could be cut. There's nothing in there that's discretionary of that magnitude that would make that dent. But that's all I wanted to add.
Okay. As far as the tree, Priscilla was complaining that there were trees cut down. She complained to me, she complained to the township staff. So I bought her a tree to plant in the yard to someday, the little Priscilla, the tree will grow to cover any cell phone tower, and she'll get to look at a beautiful tree instead of a cell phone tower. So it was just trying to be nice. Yeah. So then let's go to this. Number 2 here, taxes are based on county's assessed value, which is 50% of the value of the county's determined property. That's true. But this part, they are not based on sales price. That's wrong. When people come and get their property assessed or reassessed, that's actually on the form. They have to fill out. They have to put their at least 3 comparable sales, and then the assessed value is based on that. So the sale price is considered. It's mandatory in the form, and it is
It's not
considered.
based on it.
It is considered. So
It's not
go to the
based
next
on
one.
it,
Go
saying
to the
when
next
somebody in
one.
the real
That's
estate
my
market,
time. It's
it's
my
not
time. It's
based
my
on
time.
it.
Can you go to the next slide? The next one? Okay, yeah. All right, what is this one? Okay, the shortfall, well, it says about them landfill will still own land and there are no longer property taxes must still be paid on that property they own. No, that's correct. But the property is currently paying over $400,000 in school taxes. Now, if it's a closed landfill, they're gonna go in there and get that property reassessed, as is their right. They're no longer operating a business on that property. And the assessment would be quite lower. Now, if they expand the landfill, that property will also be reassessed, the part that's being expanded. And those taxes will most likely be increased because of what they're doing with the land instead of being, conserved.
Which taxes? School taxes?
It's great, all taxes,
You
school,
can talk,
county.
but I can't. That's the speculative.
School,
time.
county, and school, county, and township taxes. This is not accurate. The taxes would change, because when property gets reassessed, the taxes change. And they can either go up or they can go down. But when the use is different, they change. All right, now, fire services, we've had a few meetings, but we've been delayed with a report to council. They had planned a funeral for one of the members, obviously, and are still gathering some information, but hopefully we'll have something in October. Library numbers. 230 family reimbursements are up to for $9,200. 85 individual reimbursements for $1,700. It's a total of $10,900 in reimbursements for cars. Again, out of our 11,000 or so residents, 11,500 residents, whatever it is, we have 230 families that got library cards and 85 individuals that got library cards so far this year. They can still get them. So the pools are finally closed. The final numbers were 82 pool reimbursements for the Hellertown pool, 10 youth, 6 adult, 32 senior, 34 family. Southern Lehigh pool had 12, 6 families, 5 seniors, and one youth. The Hellertown pool opened on June 10th of 2023 and closed at around August 18th, so they didn't make it to Labor Day again this year. They were closed June 14th, July 9th, August 5th, August 6th, August 10th. They had to close early, June 12th, June 22nd, June 23rd, June 25th, July 7th. So they closed early 5 days, and they completely closed all day for 6 days. 5th and 6th was when they apparently got rid of the YMCA or whoever was managing it to it, and they brought Coach K, Ed Glasky, back in to run it. They needed 2 days for him to just retrain the staff. But the Southern Lehigh Pool was only closed for weather-related issues this year, and was open from Memorial Day through Labor Day. So, and had a swim. So, let me see, is there anything else? I think that's it.
Okay, thanks, Tom. All right, next is solicitor report.
I don't have anything additional.
Okay, all right, we're up to public comment, non-agenda items, residents and taxpayers only, 3-minute time limit versus Bob Lasko. Bob Lasko.
At a recent meeting, Jason Banonis stated that at the last quarterly meeting of the landfill, there were fewer complaints. He said this to attest to the credibility of the landfill. I think rather it proves the point that more and more people are not complaining because they're realizing just how useless complaining to the DEP is. All you get is a dog and pony show, a lot of apologies, and we don't have the authority. You want some proof? Well, they had asked, the landfill this is, had asked for an 8-foot high wall. They've been granted a permit for a 117-foot high wall. It will be the length of over 3/5 of a mile. One of the main reasons stated for this was that the landfill obeys the regulations for the most part. I wonder how that would work for a mass murderer. But Your Honor, there were 1,000 people there. I only knocked off 250, well, give or take. I obeyed the law for the most part. Yeah, that would go over real well. Bethlehem Wastewater Treatment Facility has issued a permission to dump wastewater directly into the Saucon and the Lehigh. When they do, and this is if they get an occurrence of 2 inches of rain or more. And when they do, they've also issued a warning to stay away from those 2 effluent release points for at least 48 hours. Local members of local water recovery teams will not even go into the Lehigh anymore without a dry suit to protect themselves. That's a fact. I've talked to some of them. Yes, the main reason they gave it to them. And if they're worried, as it says, that they issued this so that because they're worried about flooding at the facility, I've got a couple questions there. If they're so worried, why not expand the facilities? And if you say, well, they are, if the DEP is so on top of this, why weren't the facilities already expanded? And if they're worried about the Saucon flooding the facility, why not build a dike around it? There's an entire town in central Pennsylvania named Howard. They built a dike around the entire town. But if this is the problem here, of course, that would cost too much money to build it around just the facility. I could go on, but I've only got 3 minutes. Karochi, when they call me selfish, you have no idea, none whatsoever, of what I give to charity. And if you're feeling so benevolent, tell the landfill to come and sit in your backyard. You feel so benevolent.
All right, Mr. Blasko, your time's up. Can you wrap up your thoughts?
Yeah, except for one thing. You sat there and cried like a baby that somebody stole his nookie when your address was posted up there. I had nothing to do with that. But you posted mine and encouraged people to show up. I got news for you. I'm glad you did. You know why? Nobody backed you up. Not one person showed up.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next is Ginger Petrie.
My name is Ginger Petrie. I left the August 30th meeting early because of already knowing the outcome. I was so nauseated I didn't want to vomit in front of anyone. Yes, sir, including you. I do not I do want to express my surprise that you called out the names and addresses of the 8 of us in the lawsuit. This lawsuit is trying to save a beautiful mountain, as well as our property values. We were not responsible for placing the easements, but we are trying to keep them. If we succeed in saving the mountain, you announced that the 8 of us need to help supplement the budget and directed people to contact us. I would think that since the township councils before you were saving and planning on the landfill maxing out, you would have already figured out this budget on your own. I think it's despicable that you admit that the landfill owns you. We live in America, the land of freedom. And you are dictated and controlled by a company that is from Texas. On a positive note, giving my name and address out on YouTube, I've had 8 people stop in to my farm and want to help save the beautiful mountain that you are okay with destroying. So my farm comes before Bob's, so that's why they've been at my farm. Plus, you can see it. Now, as far as what you just did to me, Mr. Banonis, I don't care if I have a half a second left. I think that you have absolutely no right to discuss my finances or what I've made on any properties. And I have always been proud of this township. That's why I'm in open space. And it wasn't a lot of money in the fact that it was a lot of acreage. It was $3,000 per acre in order to keep from having someone come in and build homes on it. I'm in open space because I'm proud of the beauty of the property. And I'm also proud of my accomplishments when I did not grow up with a silver spoon. And I should not have to say that to any of you, because if any of you have ever come to my farm, you would know just how hard I work on horses and tractors and shoveling horse manure. So I really resent what you just did to me. I would never think of doing something like that to you. And I am proud of what I've done. And I should come back here with a report of what the township fees were for me to do that development. Because maybe then it would have a little more equality. Beside the fact, when you get a check like that, you give 1/3 back to the government. And that's so that we have a good country. And I'm proud of it. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
The numbers you read, the property, the parcel, it's all public information.
That is correct. That is correct. And Sandy, when you put your property in open space, you didn't take any money for it, right?
It was technically,
Your mom?
it was my mother. My mother did it,
Right.
but I helped her process the whole situation. And I was, so it's something that I brought to her attention. She wanted to do it because she loved the land. So, but
Some
no,
people do.
I was the heir, yes.
Some people do it because they love the land.
Yeah,
don't
and she
need
did.
money.
She
Other
loved
people
living there.
do it
It's
to put
really
money in.
important to her. So we just did it to make her happy.
Others put $500,000.
All right, next is Ms. Laura Ray. Ms. Laura Ray.
Yeah, it's hard to know where to start with all this. I will say, once again, you're demonizing a resident who participated in our open space program. Why don't you call up all the people that have been in that program and one by one say how awful they are for putting their properties in open space and taking money to sell the development rights. I would say Sandy's property probably had very little development rights because they're landlocked and you have to cross through a floodplain to access them. So, you know, I don't know what that value was, but it wasn't like a multi-million-dollar donation. It should be a total embarrassment to the council to accept the land that you say is being conserved by the Bethlehem landfill. That is not conservation land. I also want to, again, point out and ask about this AV system that we paid $40,000 for. It makes no sense that we only video our council meetings here. There was a comment before that Parks and Rec doesn't always meet here, so that's why we don't use it. That doesn't make any sense. Planning is here, EAC is here, zoning is here. All those meetings should be using the system that we paid $40,000 for, so residents can see what goes on. And finally, I'll just close out with how egregious all your actions are. I think democracy truly takes a beating and dies in Lower Saucon Township. The lack of respect for your volunteers serving on the boards, especially on the EAC board, is sickening.
Okay, thank you. Next is Victoria Uptop Cordero. Victoria Uptop Cordero.
Good evening. I'm taking a moment of my 3-minute time to just reflect on what just occurred in the council chambers. And I think, number one, to punish people for putting in their property in open space, something that our taxpayers had voted in a referendum for 15 years to pay extra taxes to make sure that our township remained the beautiful, scenic, rural, agricultural makeup that it is, and to preserve the very environmentally sensitive and special features that make this township one of the best places to live. And to then stand here or sit there and degrade those people. You are shaming 15 years of our Lower Saucon Township taxpayers for voting for open space. If you are then going to shame anybody who sells development rights. And in order to conserve your property legally, you have to sell your development rights. Otherwise, the conservation easement is not valid. But to get into the legalese is one thing. But to sit here and say to our residents that, yeah, we have a beautiful open space program, we have an EAC. In fact, this council wanted to take the authority of the grading of open space properties out of the EAC and created another group that was just specifically to grade the open space properties. I mean, maybe we should ask Link to take the $11 million that we're sitting on to preserve and conserve land and find someplace else to give it to. Because clearly our council does not appreciate what our residents have asked for. The other thing I want to say in the last minute is back to democracy. We have one developer in our township, maybe two, that like to spend a lot of money on our elections to make sure that their interests are protected. And after that happens, there is a course of conduct by which different independent bodies that are not supposed to be influenced by the one or two people on council, but are supposed to be made up of our residents, our people in our township. It's not supposed to be a partisan thing. It's not supposed to be who's my friend and who's not my friend. It's based upon people's credentials. And to watch all of the years of EAC's history in making sure that they honor their traditions just go out the window because certain people who have appointed themselves to be on that committee
Ma'am, your time's up. I need to-
decide different
Comments,
things.
please.
I vote democracy.
Okay, thank you. Next is Dave Belen. Dave Belen.
Dave Bouland, 2023 Alice Drive. Have no idea where I'm going here after all that haranguing, the politics. Somebody talked about being disgusting, well, that'd be me. I'll tell you, I think you ought to put the cost on the council members who get up here and drone on and show all sorts of data that's incomprehensible to them and say, yeah, I prepared that. I doubt it. I can see that that person doesn't even have the ability to understand simple mathematics when it comes down to the engineering report, can't decipher about what this means in terms of whether it's a federal or state regulation, or where the feds supersede, gosh, anybody that got a high school education knows that. All right, enough of that. Spent several hours doing this today. Yeah, my time. No, I'm not running it for the board. By the way, I just want to make a note that Edward Buscala, who's the PE on the stink pot sewage treatment plant, which you can't even drive by without almost passing out, yeah, and dumps the sewage into the river, and by God, nobody here said anything about it, including people that clearly know, meaning a specific council person, all right? So, deadly vehicle into the river.
That's in Bethlehem.
Oh, it's in Bethlehem. I'm sorry, I'm adjusting the chair.
So, sir, you have the floor. Folks in the crowd, please don't interrupt Mr. Blain. You didn't interrupt anybody, so please proceed.
No, I didn't, but that's part of the mob's work here. All right, just try to hide the stench, hide the pollution. Why? Politics. Hey, guess who Lisa Buscola's married to? Yet we're not touching them, okay? We're going to go after council members that may not be the same party, although one of them is the ballpark. Hey, let's take all those kids and turn them out on the street. We don't need a ballpark. And no, it's, by God, this is something I made up earlier. I haven't talked to any of these guys, and the bottom line, it's not $4 million. You talk about using numbers to lie. Boy, there's a huge lie. It's $1.8 million. The bulk being paid by other entities, not us. How? Gee, isn't that funny? My notes here says, yeah, rumor, Hal's going broke. I guess they are. I guess I just found that out here. Yep. How many people really want the Hal Library? Well, we just found out 10,000 worth, not 150. Guess what? It's no different than when I first came to the first council meeting and they shoved the thing under Link's nose and said, okay, council, sign off. And that man said, has anybody here seen it? And they said, no. Finally, it's politics. And when this all goes, Priscilla, hopefully you will too.
All right, thank you, Mr. Blain. I think that concludes the public comment on agenda items. With that said, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, too bad I didn't get here to sign up. Fuck you, asshole. Fuck you. Sorry.
At this point, at this point.
So here's another, with all the times that, with all the times that they said Sandy donated everything. Apparently the truth came out now, that she didn't donate it, that her mother donated it.
So who are you advising? You're advising yourselves?
I will verify all that tomorrow.
I was thinking that, Mark.
I always feel it.